Good morning, you're watching the Channel 9 Breakfast Show on Tuesday, the 31st of March. I'm Nikki Dean.
And I'm Byron Evans. And that's the truth, unlike some of the porkies that people have been telling us in the emails they've been sending us this morning. Basically, this all kicked off when, a little bit earlier, we were telling you a rather unusual story of a Polish MP who failed a drink driving test. And he came up with a rather innovative excuse for his blood alcohol level. He said, because he was a diabetic, he'd eaten a couple of apples before heading out on his journey, and the apples must have fermented in his stomach, causing the alcohol to flood into his blood system.
We checked it with Dr. Benojner just to make sure that, you know, it wasn't physically possible, and he said that it wasn't. It was more than likely a big fat lie. So we've been asking you to get in touch with excuses that you might have used to get yourself off the hook, perhaps to get out of handing in your homework when you were younger, a day off work, perhaps while you're late, or to get out of an event that you don't want to go to.
I love this one. Nikki, tell us about your sister. She's not going to love you for it.
No, she's not, but she's at work, so she'll never know unless anyone tells her. She was late for work, very late for work. I might add a couple of hours. And when she got home, where have you been? We've tried to get hold of you. And she said, oh, I'm really, really sorry. I had this dream, this really vivid dream that my alarm had gotten off, I'd got changed, and I'd come to work, so I thought I was already here. So that's why she hadn't gotten there till later, and she got away with it as well. Fantastic.
Well, here's a cracker here from Nigel in Scunthorpe. When he was in a passionate embrace with a lovely lady at work, but his boss caught him. She pulled him to one side and said, what were you doing with her? He said, I was weighing her.
Just picking her up, just to see what she weighs. Not that kind of weighing. She wanted to know about the kilos.
Go on, let's have a go.
You fibber, Nigel, but he did get away with it, though, for those of you that want to know. It's all right. Hey. You're all right, thank you very much. We've also had a little 10-year-old email in this. Well, his mum did. He doesn't like wearing ties. Lots of young boys don't. They're a bit restrictive, aren't they? But you've got to many schools. And the dinner lady grabbed him and said, where's your tie? And he said, the dog's eaten it. Popular excuse, isn't it? People use it for homework. However, there was no dog. He was fibbing.
Plenty of banter like this throughout the morning breakfast show. If you'd like to join in, please don't hesitate. breakfast@channelm.co.uk. Text us 88821. Start your message with show and put your name on your messages and we'll give you a shout-out. Bit of a giggle.
Sorry to interrupt. Do you know what James Webster used to use when he was late for school? Sorry, miss, I was practising my Morris dancing.
Yes, I was...
Used to work a treat.
I was, yeah.
I'm only joking, James. He hates me now, doesn't he?
I was slapping a middle-aged man in shorts around their head with a cone. And that's just what he does at the weekend.
We've just lost a friend already.
Sorry, James. In a few minutes, all the latest sports headlines, the final ones of the morning, plus Kevin Feddy, the business editor of the Manchester Evening News business section, joins us with today's top business stories. But first, the final headlines of the morning with James Webster, followed by, well, the sport.
Good morning. Here are Tuesday's main headlines. A jury has been hearing how an anaesthetist used patients' hands to perform sex acts on him while they were sedated for abortions here in Manchester. Dr Narendra Sharma is accused of sexually abusing the women at the Marie Stopes International Centre. Other staff have reported seeing him put his victims' hands inside his trousers during operations. The 51-year-old from Bowden says he's the victim of a bullying campaign and denies the charges. CS spray has been used to break up a brawl between journalists at the Houses of Parliament. Police were called in to deal with the fight between two men who'd been at a reception hosted by Tory party chairman Eric Pickles. The pair had left the event and were arguing in a corridor behind the Speaker's chair. The row over MPs' expenses is intensifying. Figures are out showing in our area the 31 members of Parliament claimed £4.5 million between them in just 1 year. Janet Anderson, who represents Rossendale and Darwen, claimed the most, more than £173,000 in 1 year. She's followed by Oldham East's Phil Wallace, who claimed almost £170,000, and then Ivan Lewis of Bury South with almost £166,000. Also in the top 10 are Salford MP Hazel Blaze, who claimed just under £165,000, and also Beverly Hughes from Stretford and Ermston, whose bill ran to £164,000. Check out how much your MP claimed in the full list at manchestereveningnews.co.uk. That, as it's claimed, someone at the House of Commons is cashing in on the current row. It's claimed details of claims are being offered for sale. An investigation is on. A train driver has been describing the terrifying moment he was attacked by yobs throwing stones at him while at the controls. John Hobbs was left bleeding and unconscious after being hit by a brick on the vintage East Lancashire Railway. A short time later, a second train was also targeted.
I just collapsed to the floor, like fainted, if you like. I didn't quite have a blackout, but I was lucky I didn't burn myself when I fell, didn't impale myself anything when I fell, because a steam locomotive is a dangerous thing, and it just fell to the floor, and as it happened, I fell against the door. Well, sometimes the door is open on some occasions because it's so hot on a locomotive. I was lucky the door was closed and fastened, otherwise I'd have fallen off.
Manchester Airport is being criticised in a new report. Customers have told a survey for Which magazine that signs and flight details inside Terminal 1 don't come up to scratch. A spokesman for the airport says the research was carried out during major building work, which caused the disruption. Heathrow and Gatwick have been rated the worst two airports in the UK. British forces will start pulling out of Iraq later. They'll pass military command there to the US Army ahead of the withdrawal of nearly all the 4,000 UK troops still in Basra. They'll be home by the end of July. Scientists say a so-called magic bullet pill could halve the number of heart attacks and strokes. Polycap has gone on trial in India with healthy people aged between 45 and 80. Experts have been comparing it to different combinations of medicines already available and say it can cancel out some risk factors, including high blood pressure, obesity or smoking. Now, Barack Obama flies into the UK later for his first visit since taking over at the White House. The US president's here for the G20 summit in London, but ever there with the exclusive, our reporter Ben Bland has already caught up with him, sort of, at a warehouse in Ashton-under-Lyne.
He's famed for his speeches, but this Barack Obama won't be saying a word because he's made of cardboard. A company in Tameside began selling these figures in November, and since then they've sold nearly 500, making it one of their most popular ever products.
Oh, we were really surprised. It's compared to, say, President George W. Bush, we used to sell maybe 1-2 cutouts a month, whereas Barack Obama, when we launched him in November, we just started selling 10s, 20s, 30s. It's been really, really popular. We've sent some to France, some to Germany and some to Ireland, as well as selling them in the UK.
And what's the biggest bulk order you've had in one go?
We've sent 100 to Ireland in one shipment just to one customer in Ireland, which was amazing, really.
Why do you think they're so popular?
I suppose it's just reflecting maybe people wanted such a change after George W. Bush, and not only is he, you know, a good political speaker, I think he's also coming across as a bit of a political hero for a lot of people. So I think that's driving it. It's very surprising.
Another cutout that's popular at the moment is Charles Darwin. They've sold around 200 of him. Meanwhile, Doctor Who continues to be a bestseller, as does Ronald Reagan. Each character will set you back around £30. But if they were surprised by the demand for President Obama cutouts, just wait until they begin stocking this one. Ben Bland, Channel M News.
Don't all rush at once. That's it from me for this morning. I'll be back with the Channel M lunchtime news at 12 noon, and Andy Crane's here with more from 5 o'clock tonight. Now, though, the sport with Byron and Chris.
As this is our final sporting roundup of the morning, we'll finish off with some back page news, and we'll start with the Manchester Evening News. A spring clean for Sparky over at Eastlands, as the headline reads, clear out. Chris, what's the story?
Absolutely. Mark Hughes looks like he's going to get rid of up to 16 senior players in the summer to make way for the big names that are expected. There's some big names actually who are going, people like Didier Herman, international player, Felipe Caicedo, Kasper Schmeichel, Darius Vassell. So there's some big names there, but Mark Hughes realises he needs to clear the decks if he's going to bring in these big names in the summer.
I think some people may be surprised that Danny Mills is still there.
Absolutely. It's amazing, isn't it? He's on the last year of a 5-year contract. He's not played for don't know how long, couple of years. He's still been getting his paycheck, but thankfully he'll be out in the summer.
OK, whilst some first-team players will be quaking in their boots over at Eastlands, there's one man chuffed to bits to be back at the Theatre of Dreams.
Absolutely. Gary Neville returned after 2 months out with a groin strain. He played last night in the United Reserves 3-3 draw with Newcastle up at St James's Park. It'll be a big boost for United going into what is a crucial clash on Sunday with Aston Villa.
Final note from Old Trafford, and it seems as though Mourinho, the special one, is eyeing up Sir Alex's job.
Absolutely. It's an interesting one, this, isn't it? We had last week that Darren Ferguson spilt the beans that his father was planning to retire at the end of next season. Mourinho is obviously one candidate who could fit into Fergie's shoes, and he's come out overnight in Italy, where he's manager of Inter at the moment, saying that he wouldn't be able to say no. United are one of those clubs that if they come calling, you've just got to go.
Over his cold, dead body, some people would say. The only way you're going to get Fergie off that touchline is in a box.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris. Hey, and how'd you find your first venture here onto The Breakfast Show?
Brilliant. Really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolute pleasure, sir. You're welcome here anytime.
Thank you.
OK. Belle Vue Aces smashed Glasgow last night, 68-26 in the second leg of the Challenge match. We caught up with the Aces captain as the season starts on Friday.
Yes, I'm really looking forward to the season. I've been looking forward for the last month to be coming back, get in the suit again, and get some riding done. Been a long winter, and I know that the club have been trying the best to create a team that can go and be successful, and I think that we can do that this year.
Time for your business news now, and joining me this morning is Kevin Feddy, business editor of the Manchester Evening News, plus Gordon Oliver, finance director at James Halstead Flooring Firm. A very good morning to both of you for coming in this morning. We'll start with you, Kevin, as always. We're going to talk about M&S trading figures. They've just been released for the first 3 months of the year. How's it looking?
Well, it's interesting, Nikki. The sales for the first 3 months of the year, as you say, are down by 4.2% overall, but that's much less than had been feared. And in fact, the shares have gone up 10% this morning on the back of that relatively good news. In the current climate, people have been fearing it would be much worse. So Stuart Rose has been talking about a recovery for the retailer and talking about how their sales have increased to younger people, new markets, promotional activity, and really it's not as bad as it could have been.
OK, well, that's good news then. We'll wait with bated breath for what the results for the rest of the year bring. But you've got some news about Clinton Cards.
Yes, Clinton Cards, of course, another retailer. They own the Birthdays chain, which is based in Bury. And also a similar picture. The sales for the last few weeks have been around about level compared with last year, which isn't as bad as, again, had been expected. So the decline seems to have been arrested slightly, and they can now look forward. But with both retailers, a similar picture is emerging, where there's a little bit of a fall in the rate of declining sales, but there's a great deal of uncertainty about their future.
OK, you shouldn't panic just yet. Wait and see what this space brings. Good morning, Gordon. Welcome to Channel and Breakfast Show. As I mentioned there, you're the finance director for Halstead Flooring Firm. Fantastic business story this morning in the Manchester Evening News. As you can see, loving the headline, Halstead wipes the floor with the opposition. Sales figures at the moment up 6% for the first half of the year. Tell us why that is.
Exports really is where we're at. I mean, we've got a solid home market. Sales in the UK are doing pretty well, but we export to about 50 countries around the world. And what can I say? I mean, we've had 30 years of investment in Manchester, 600 local jobs out of the 800 we employ around the world. And we're just building on that success in various markets. I mean, what's pleasing this year is that some of the emerging markets, you know, the Mexicos, Russia, Turkey, India, we're starting to get some penetration there, and that just adds to our bigger markets like Germany and Australia, New Zealand, China. You know, we've been exporting to China for about 25 years, and that's had a good year.
Excellent. Now, you're based in Radcliffe, as
based
we
in
mentioned
Radcliffe.
a little bit earlier on. You're a big employer locally, so fantastic news for the region, particularly at a time when people are worried about losing their jobs. You've also just won some pretty big contracts, some TV series in particular. Tell us about those. Yeah,
we've tended to do odd bits for the BBC, for the Casualty series, Holby City, and they've got a new programme coming out, Casualty 1909, where we've done the floor. I think it's 40 years before we actually manufactured the floor, so it's a new market for us.
It's TV world, anything's possible.
That's right.
And talking about the next part of the year, obviously, I imagine still some challenges will face you, but how are you feeling at this point? You must be feeling quite confident.
Confident, but I mean, the export market's are the difficult one. I mean, sterling's greatly in our favour, which helps exporters, but there's a lack of confidence in many markets in the world. And this last 2 or 3 months, the world does seem to have stalled a bit. But that said, I mean, we plough on. A lot of these projects are done over years, so I don't think any 2 or 3 month period is going to affect what we're doing worldwide.
OK, well, best of luck, and let's hope that you continue to buck the trend. Thank you very much to both of you for coming in this morning. Time now for a quick break, coming up after which we'll be chatting to 17-year-old Tori Longdon about her hopes of joining the National Youth Choir of Great Britain when they tour America in June. We'll see you shortly.